be referring to this flow chart along the way, but I'll put that away for now, and we'll go to the code. So I do need you to write this objective and algorithm and pseudocode in your program. So go ahead, you can pause the video right here and write down this objective, algorithm, and then we just need you to have that at the top of your program so that you know. Also, if you are forgetting how to restart or start a new program, you can I'll do an example right here. So all you do is File, New, PyDev Project, and I'll name this. So I'll name this Hangman. I'll just name it Test because I already have one named Hangman. And then I'll just click Finish. It should, all this information should be the same as when you did it before. So now I have this Hangman Test project folder that I'm just going to do File, New, Module. And then I'll just name it the same thing, Hangman Test, so that, because I already have so the source folder is incorrect. It says I'm in Hangman. I don't want to be in there. I want to be in Hangman Test. So now in this folder, I will make this new project, and there we go. So up in this area, in your comment box at the top, I want you to write all of this information. So the objective, which is to create a Hangman name, and then the algorithm, which is all the steps that we just went through in our flowchart. So pause it here and write this section of code. And then I'm going to scroll down so that you can write this section, this last part of the algorithm. So this is the part that was missing from the top part. And then the last part is the pseudocode. So go ahead and write from this line 21. It may be different on yours, but so we're going to write the pseudocode. And you can just pause, write all of this. Then I'll scroll down and you can write the last little bit of that. So like we've explained in cohort, the objective tells us what we're doing. The algorithm gives us a list of steps on how to do it. And then the pseudocode tells us how to do it in Python. So now that we have all of that written, we can start writing our actual functions. So the first one we're going to make is pick random word. So we're going to, here's the function right here from 49 to 66. You can, I'll be talking about what the function does, and you can write this function. Make sure you have the same indentation as I do, and make sure you understand what is going on in the function. You should also have these comments because the comments tell you what the function does, so that if another person is to read your program, they'll know what it is. So first we're going to import random because we're going to use random again to create a random integer. And then we're going to define our function. So this is the defining line of our function. We have a comment that tells us what the function is going to do. And then we're going to use this keyword with, which with says with whatever this next thing that I write as f. So I'm saying with this function, or with this right here. So with this blue part as f, so I want it to be called f, you are going to then do the next couple of lines. So the next couple of lines are f.readLines in words. So to explain that more, open opens a document. So this is opening a words.txt, which is the list of words that we have. So it's a words.txt, which is a dictionary of just a bunch of words. And then So that's the first parameter because open is a function, and the first parameter is the name of the file you want to open, and the second parameter is what you how you want to open it. So you can open it as read, you can open it as read and write, or you can open it, or you can just like write it. So read is R, read and write is RW, and then write only is, I think, X. So when let's switch over to the document camera. When you should add this into your notes, into your cheat sheet. So you should have the open function, and in it, it should have two parameters. The first one is name of file, and notice I'm breaking it up by capital letters for the different words, and then separate the parameters by comma, and then have read, write, or both. Then you can close off that function. And so this should be in your cheat sheet under the functions area. This is another example of a function that you can use later. So so with this, going back to our code, we have with this open text file, and we're gonna name it F. So with this text file as F, then create this words, which is a variable. It's a list variable. So it's going to, what's going to happen is dot read lines is a function that you can do with all types of, or that you can do with files that you're bringing in. So read lines reads every single line in the text file and returns that as a list. So then it'll return this, and the value we get back, that list we get back, we're going to set it to Word. And so words is a list variable. So that's the next kind of variable you can add to your function or to your variables cheat sheet is list. So list just has a bunch of different types of, it's just like a list of information. So you can have, I'm gonna create a list named letters, and then it's equal to, and I'll denote it with curly brackets, and since this is text, it'll have to be, I'll have to have the quotes around it, or the, what are these called? The, I don't remember, apostrophes around it. So A, B, C, and then I'll close it. So then this is a list of A, B, and C. And lists can have another type of like explaining them. So you can have a list of integers, you can have a list of string, you can have a list of booleans, you can have a list of like almost every other type of variable. You can have a list of lists, you can have a list of lists of lists, you can have it inside of each other. So you can have just a list of variables. Anyways, so this list just stores these different things. So now, if I want to say, when I'm calling this, if I want to access this first piece of information right here, it's not actually the first. It's at index 0. And then this is at index 1 and 2. So when I'm calling this, when I want to say, hey, what's at number 0, I'm going to call it and put brackets and say letters at 0. So then I can set that to another variable that's just like a singular letter. So now I'm saying letter equals letters at 0. So letter would equal A in this example. So under variables, you should have list as another type of variable, and you should have something similar to this example. However you need to write that or draw that, that's up to you, but this is the type of thing you should have in there. So lists have index, so it always starts at index 0, and it goes up to infinite, no matter, depending on how many different documents you have, or how many different elements you have. So now that we've got that, you've got an understanding of lists. When we go back to our code, we have words, which is the list of all of the words in our file we just opened. Now we're gonna create a random number, so index. We're gonna call random up here. We're gonna get a random number between 0 and the length of words minus 1. So we have to include 0 because the index starts at 0. Otherwise you won't have a first word. So you have 0, and then, but we can't just say the length. The length is len, length, returns the length of words. So in this case, it returns how many elements or how many things are stored in the list. So if we look at our example, we had 3 elements, so that would equal 3. But if we said up to 3, or up to the length of words, or the length of letters, then we would get an error because there is no third index. So we have to make sure that we have -1 to say, okay, we know that the length is always going to be 1 more than the final index. So length -1 is going to be the last index that there is. So then once you have that, it's going to pick that random number between 0 and the length -1 and set it to index. And then we're going to say, okay, from words at index, so at the index, which is a random number, we're going to dot strip it, which, as y'all remember, dot strip gets rid of any white space on the sides of it, and it's going to set that to word. So word is equal to the word at index whatever of words that is stripped. So it's if we go to our document camera and we look at that, we have, so if we had index 2, or if we had letters, we could just stick with this, but letters at index 0, and if we added dot strip to this, all this does is get rid of any white space that could be on the side of it. It's just a precautionary measure so that nothing, like we don't get any errors, or they don't get a word that has a bunch of spaces, because how do you spaces in a letter, so you can't guess space. So you have the letters at index 0, or in the case of the program, we have words at index whatever, and then strip it and make that equal to word, and then we're going to return that word. So that was the first function. Now we'll go and I'm going to close this, and we're going to do the second function. I've also closed the last function. I'll just leave it open. So we're going to define ask user for next letter, no parameters, and then so the user, we're just gonna make a variable letter and make it equal to the input of of the user. So remember, input prints out this statement and then waits for input. So it's gonna say guess your letter. It's gonna wait for something, and then it's gonna equal it to letter. Then we're gonna return the letter in dot strip. We're gonna get rid of any white space, and then we're gonna uppercase it, dot upper, so that all the letters that we use will be in uppercase, so that when we're comparing them, because remember, if I write this, capital A equals to A is not, this is a no, not the same, but, oh, it's doing weird stuff because, but if I do A equals to, or A compared to A, that is the same. So we just had to make sure that we are comparing either both uppercase and both lowercase. And this just imported some random stuff. Okay, so that was that function. That's it. It's very simple. All it does is ask for the next letter and then returns that letter.